The desperate signal, the last transmission. The communication chamber felt colder than usual as Commander Thissa stood before the ancient archive terminal. Her crystalline fingers trembled as she accessed files that had been sealed for 4 centuries. Outside the reinforced walls of Station Valores, the night sky burned with the fires of dying ships. The Kryn swarm had come without warning, and they had come to consume. Thissa belonged to the Valorian Republic, a species of silicon-based beings who had spent millennia building bridges between stars. Her people were merchants, diplomats, and scholars. They had never known war, not like this. The Kryn changed everything. They were a hive species, driven by hunger and expansion, caring nothing for negotiation or mercy. In 3 months, they had devoured 12 colony worlds and were closing in on the Republic's core systems. The holographic display flickered to life, casting blue light across Thissa's translucent face. The file header read, Species 347H, Humanity. Quarantine Protocol Alpha. Authorization level, Galactic Council Supreme. Her optical sensors scanned the warnings that appeared in bold text across every page. Extreme caution. Class 15 Deathworld origin. Psychological profile, unpredictable. Military capability, unassessed. Recommendation, no contact. Behind her, the council chamber doors opened. Elder Morix entered, his aged form supported by anti-gravity fields. His people, the Synthari, had guided the Valorian Republic for generations with wisdom and patience. Now his bioluminescent skin pulsed with patterns of deep concern. You are certain this is our only path? Morix asked, his voice like wind through crystal chimes. Thissa turned to face him. Elder, we have lost contact with Defense Fleet 7. The Kryn will reach our homeworld in 48 hours. Our weapons barely scratch their organic ships. Our shields fail against their bioacid projectiles. We have exhausted every option. She gestured to the screen. Except this one. Morix drifted closer to read the ancient records. The humans were isolated because the first contact team feared them. It says here that their own planet tried to kill them for millions of years, and they survived by becoming more dangerous than everything else. They waged wars among themselves that killed billions. They created weapons that could sterilize their entire world. He paused, his light dimming. We may be inviting something worse than the Kryn. Or we may be inviting our salvation, Thissa countered. She pulled up a deeper file, one that few had ever accessed. Look at this, Elder. This is from the single diplomatic exchange before the quarantine. The human ambassador was asked what his species valued most. Do you know what he said? Morix studied the text. He said, we protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand with the weak against the strong. We do not abandon our friends. The Elder's light pulsed with something that might have been hope. You believe they will help us because we ask? I believe they will help us because that is what Deathworlders do, Thissa said quietly. They survive impossible odds, and then they help others do the same. The signal sent 20 minutes later. Thissa stood at the primary communication array with 3 technicians from different species. All of them understood they were about to break the most sacred law in galactic civilization. The human quarantine had been established by unanimous vote of 63 species. To violate it meant exile or worse, but there would be no one left to exile if the Kryn won. The message is ready, announced Prill, a small furry Quexing whose paws danced across holographic controls. We are burning through 3 months of power reserves to boost the signal across the gap. The human systems are 72 light years away. Even if they receive it, response time should be at minimum 30 hours. Thissa nodded. Send it on all frequencies. Translate it into every human language we have on record. The message was simple. This is Commander Thissa of the Valorian Republic to any human vessels or stations receiving this transmission. We are under attack by an enemy we cannot defeat. Our worlds are burning. Our people are dying. We know you chose isolation, and we respect that choice. But we have nowhere else to turn. We are begging for help. Please, if you can hear this, if you remember what your ambassador once said about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, please answer. We are coordinates attached. We do not have much time. The transmission burned into space, a desperate cry into the void. The technicians began shutting down the array to conserve remaining power. Thesa watched the signal strength fade into the distance and felt the weight of her decision. She had potentially doomed her people twice, once by inviting the humans, and once by wasting resources on a message that might never be answered. Commander, Prill suddenly squeaked, his fur standing on end. We have incoming transmission. Origin point. Human quarantine zone. Signal strength is... That cannot be right. Thesa rushed to the console. The readings made no sense. The response had come in only 4 hours. 4 hours across a distance that should take weeks for any communication to travel. How is this possible? Unknown, Commander. The signal is also impossibly strong. It is as if they are broadcasting from just outside our system. Prill's paws hesitated over the controls. Should I play it? Do it. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unlike any Thesa had heard. It was rough, direct, and carried an edge of controlled aggression that made her core temperature drop. The words came in perfect Valorian trade language, but the accent was strange, clipped, and hard. Valorian Republic, this is Fleet Commander Jackson Hayes of the United Earth Defense Coalition. We received your distress call. We are already en route to your position. Our advanced scout ships will arrive in your system in 6 hours. The main fleet will follow in 12. Hold your ground. Protect your people. We are coming, and we do not abandon our friends. Hayes out. The communication ended. Silence filled the chamber. 6 hours. The humans would arrive in 6 hours across a distance that should take months to travel. Morix, who had been listening from the doorway, spoke in a voice filled with awe and terror. What have we awakened? First contact redux 6 hours and 14 minutes later. Every sensor on Station Valores screamed warnings simultaneously. Thesa rushed to the command center, where tactical displays showed impossible data. 3 contacts had appeared at the edge of the system, not through the normal disruption patterns of faster-than-light travel, but simply appearing as if they had always been there. The ships were unlike anything in the galactic database. They were dark, angular, and covered in what looked like scars from countless battles. They moved with purpose and grace, burning toward the inner system at accelerations that should liquefy any organic crew. The energy signatures coming from those vessels made the station's core reactor look like a child's toy. Broadcast a greeting, Thesa ordered. Tell them we are grateful for their response. Before the message could be sent, one of the human ships altered course and approached the station. It was enormous up close, easily 3 times the size of the Republic's largest vessels. Weapon ports covered its hull like the scales of some ancient predator. As it drew near, a communication request came through. Thesa accepted. The face that appeared on screen made her understand immediately why humans had been quarantined. The man looked like evolution had carved him from stone and taught him to smile with teeth. His eyes were forward-facing predator's eyes, sharp and calculating. Scars marked his face, speaking of violence survived. He wore a uniform that was purely functional, designed for combat rather than ceremony. Commander Thesa, I am Commander Jackson Hayes. We are conducting system scans now. We have detected your enemy fleet approaching from the outer rim. Estimate contact in 4 hours. Do you have evacuation protocols ready? Thesa felt her crystalline structure resonate with confusion. Evacuation? Commander Hayes, this is our home. We have nowhere to evacuate to. This is our last stand. Something changed in Hayes's expression. The hard edges softened slightly, and what might have been respect appeared in those predatory eyes. Then we stand with you? But I need you to understand something about humans, Commander. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We fought ice ages and predators and diseases that should have wiped us out 1,000 times over. We learned that the only way to survive was to be tougher, meaner, and more stubborn than anything trying to kill us. He leaned forward. Your enemy is about to learn what it means to pick a fight with Deathworlders. The communication shifted to tactical display. Hayes highlighted positions around the station. We are deploying defensive satellites now. They will activate when the enemy enters range. My other 2 ships are positioning at coordinates that will give us crossfire advantage. When the Kryn arrive, we will let them think they have the advantage. Then we will show them why Earth's greatest predators are not the ones with claws and teeth. Thesa watched as the human ships moved into position with mechanical precision. Commander Hayes, our files say that humans wage terrible wars among themselves, that you destroy your own kind over resources and beliefs. Why would you travel across the galaxy to help strangers? Hayes was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried weight that transcended translation. Because we remember what it is like to be prey, Commander. We remember when we were the ones hiding in caves from things bigger and stronger than us. We remember when we were weak. That is exactly why we help now that we are strong. Because someone has to stand between the monsters and the innocent. Might as well be us. The display suddenly lit up with new contacts. Hundreds of them. The Kryn swarm had arrived early, and they had brought their entire fleet. Organic ships that looked grown rather than built, pulsing with bioluminescence and dripping with weapons, evolved over millennia of consumption. Hayes's expression did not change. All ships, this is actual. Execute Protocol Ragnarok. Show them what Deathworlders do best. Thesa watched as the 3 human ships powered up weapons that burned with energy signatures she could not identify. In that moment, she understood that the galaxy was about to change forever. Humanity had remained silent for 400 years. But now they were answering a call for help, and they were bringing judgment. Asterisk. When Deathworlders answer the battle begins, the Kryn swarm moved like a living organism through space. Hundreds of bioships pulsing with sickly green light. Each vessel was a horror of organic engineering, grown rather than built, with weapons that fired streams of corrosive biomatter and swarms of smaller attack organisms. They had consumed 12 worlds with these tactics. Overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers and biological adaptability. Commander, Thesa watched from Station Valoris as the Kryn fleet split into 3 attack waves. Their strategy was always the same. Surround, overwhelm, dissolve, and consume. Her sensors showed the massive enemy force bearing down on their position, and for a moment, doubt crept into her crystalline consciousness. 3 human ships against hundreds of Kryn vessels. Even Deathworlders could not overcome such odds. Then Commander Hayes spoke over the open channel, his voice calm as still water before a storm. Valorian forces, power down all non-essential systems and reinforce your shields. This is going to get loud. All human vessels, weapons free. Let us remind the galaxy why Earth is classified as a Class 15 death world. The lead Kryn bioship, a massive creature vessel hybrid that dwarfed even the human destroyers, fired first. Streams of acid and swarms of attack organisms erupted toward the nearest human ship. Thesa's sensors predicted total destruction within seconds. No shields could withstand the concentrated assault. The human ship did not even try to evade. It flew directly into the attack, and its shields blazed with light, so bright that Thesa had to dim her optical sensors. But the shields held. Impossibly, incredibly, they held against firepower that had melted through Valorian dreadnoughts like ice under a sun. "Target the command organism," Hayes ordered. "Railgun batteries fire." The human ships opened fire with weapons that Thesa barely understood. Solid projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, tore through space. When they hit the Kryn bioships, the impacts were catastrophic. The projectiles punched through organic hulls with such force that entire sections of the vessels exploded from kinetic transfer alone. No energy shields to disperse. No time to regenerate. Just pure, devastating physics. The lead Kryn command ship shuddered as 3 railgun rounds struck it in rapid succession. Its bioluminescence flickered and died. The massive organism went dark and began to drift, mortally wounded in seconds. The Kryn swarm responded with rage. Hundreds of ships converged on the human vessels from all directions, firing everything they had. The space around the human destroyers became a storm of bioweapons and organic projectiles. Thesa could not even see the human ships through the assault. "They cannot survive that," Elder Morix whispered beside her, his bioluminescence dimming with despair. "No one could survive that." Then the human ships emerged from the storm, shields glowing but intact, weapons still firing. Hayes's voice came through again, and Thesa detected something that chilled her core. He was laughing. "Is that all?" "Valorian Command, you should see what a Category 5 hurricane looks like on Earth. Now that is a storm. This is just target practice." Deathworld physics, the battle evolved into something beyond Thesa's comprehension. The human ships moved in ways that violated every principle of safe space combat. They accelerated at forces that should crush their crews into paste. They turned at angles that should tear their hulls apart. They flew through explosions and acid clouds that should melt their armor, but they did not break. They did not slow. They did not stop. Prill, the Quexian technician, was monitoring human ship internal sensors with growing disbelief. "Commander, I am reading the conditions inside those vessels. The gravity forces during their maneuvers. The human crew should be dead. Multiple times dead. But their vital signs show they are functioning normally. How?" Thesa pulled up the ancient files on human biology and found her answer. "Their planet's gravity is twice what we consider standard. Their bodies evolved to withstand forces that would kill most species. And look at this. Humans possess something called an adrenaline response. When threatened, their bodies flood with chemicals that increase strength, suppress pain, and enhance reaction time. They literally become more dangerous when injured. That is insane." Prill squeaked. "What kind of evolution produces that?" "The kind that happens on a death world," Morix answered quietly. "Where being wounded means you need to fight harder, not surrender." On screen, one of the human ships took a direct hit that penetrated its shields. Acid ate through the hull, and atmosphere vented into space. Thesa expected the ship to withdraw, to seek repairs. Instead, it accelerated toward the enemy that had wounded it. Emergency bulkheads sealed the breach, and the ship's weapons never stopped firing. Hayes's voice came through, addressing his damaged vessel. "Destroyer tenacity. Status report." A new voice answered, female and somehow cheerful despite the circumstances. "Hull breach on decks 7 and 8, Commander. Lost 6 good people. Engineering says we are at 70% combat effectiveness. We are still in this fight. Copy that, tenacity? Make them pay for our crew." "With interest, sir." "With interest." The tenacity dove into the thickest concentration of Kryn ships and unleashed weapons that Thesa had never seen before. Missiles that tracked their targets through impossible maneuvers. Lasers that could cut through organic hulls like they were made of vapor. And something Hayes called kinetic torpedoes, which were essentially massive chunks of dense metal, accelerated to near relativistic speeds. When a kinetic torpedo hit a Kryn bioship, The target did not just die. It ceased to exist in any meaningful way, converted to expanding plasma by the sheer energy of impact. The swarm learned quickly to avoid those particular weapons, breaking formation and creating gaps in their attack pattern. Gaps the humans exploited ruthlessly. The turning point 30 minutes into the battle, the Kryn swarm began to realize they were not winning. They had destroyed nothing. They had killed perhaps a dozen humans. Meanwhile, their own numbers were dropping catastrophically. Bioships that had taken years to grow were being reduced to debris in seconds. The organic intelligence coordinating the swarm recognized a truth that terrified it. These new enemies were apex predators. The swarm tried to adapt, releasing specialized bioweapons designed to specifically counter human tactics. They launched acid clouds that should eat through any armor. They deployed electromagnetic pulse organisms that should disable any technology. They even attempted boarding actions, sending warrior organisms to penetrate the human ships directly. Asterisk. Nothing worked. The acid clouds were dispersed by human point defense systems before they could reach the ships. The EMP organisms died to automated defense turrets that required no electronic systems to function. Purely mechanical weapons the humans called close-in weapon systems. And the boarding organisms that managed to reach the human vessels discovered something that made the swarm intelligence recoil in horror. Human crew members fought back in person. FISA watched security. Footage from one of the human ships, transmitted openly so all Valorian forces could see. Kryn warrior organisms, each one larger than a human and armed with natural weapons that could tear through steel, had breached a corridor. They faced 5 human crew members who had grabbed weapons from lockers and formed a defensive line. The humans did not retreat. They did not panic. They simply opened fire with projectile weapons that fired so rapidly they sounded like continuous thunder. The Kryn warriors charged, absorbing bullets that would kill any normal being. Driven by biological imperatives that knew no fear, the humans met them in close combat when ammunition ran out. They fought with knives and tools and bare hands. They were injured, bleeding, clearly in pain, but they did not stop fighting. One human woman took a claw strike that would have disemboweled any other species, and she simply tied her wound closed with a belt and kept fighting. When the battle in that corridor ended, all 5 humans were wounded but alive. All 8 Kryn warriors were dead. The humans helped each other to the medical bay, joking and laughing despite their injuries. Elder Morix watched in stunned silence. They are insane. Wonderfully, terrifyingly insane. Hayes's voice cut through the command channel. All ships, the enemy is breaking formation. Prepare for pursuit protocol. Valorian command, we are about to teach the swarm why running from humans is pointless. We evolved as persistence hunters. We do not give up. We do not stop. We chase our prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Today, the Kryn learned that lesson. The swarm intelligence had reached the same conclusion that 12 other species had reached over the past months. This battle could not be won. It ordered a retreat, pulling its remaining ships back toward the system's edge, where they could jump to faster-than-light travel and escape. The human ships pursued without hesitation. They matched every evasive maneuver, predicted every desperate tactic, and continued firing with mechanical precision. Kryn bioships died by the dozens as they fled. Their organic hulls no match for weapons designed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. Aftermath of judgment. When the last Kryn vessel either died or managed to escape the system, Station Valores fell silent. Thesa looked at her tactical display and could barely process what she was seeing. The human ships had destroyed or disabled over 200 enemy vessels. 200, with only 3 ships. The mathematics made no sense until she remembered. These were Deathworlders. Normal rules did not apply. Hayes opened a channel to the station. His face appeared on screen, and Thesa noticed details she had missed before. He was bleeding from a cut above his eye. His uniform was torn in places. He looked exhausted, but his eyes still held that predatory sharpness, that core of absolute determination that defined his species. Commander Thesa, the immediate threat has been neutralized. The Kryn swarm that attacked your world is no longer combat effective. My ships are damaged but operational. We will remain in your system until our main fleet arrives to ensure no follow-up attacks occur. He paused, and something that might have been sympathy crossed his scarred face. I am sorry we could not arrive sooner. I am sorry for the worlds you lost before you called us. Thesa felt emotions cascade through her crystalline structure. Too many to process at once. Relief, gratitude, awe, and still, underneath it all, a thread of fear at what humanity represented. Commander Hayes, you saved us. You crossed impossible distances and fought impossible odds because we asked for help. Why? Your people chose isolation. You owed us nothing. Hayes was quiet for a moment, considering his words. 400 years ago, my ancestors met galactic civilization and saw species that had achieved peace by forgetting how to fight. Beautiful cultures that had no defense against things like the Kryn. We isolated ourselves, not because we hated you, but because we were afraid of what we might become in a galaxy full of civilizations that needed protecting. We were afraid we would turn into what we were back on Earth. Warriors without end, fighting forever because someone always needed fighting for. He smiled, and it transformed his face from predatory to almost gentle. But then you called, and we remembered something important about humanity. Yes, we are warriors. Yes, we come from a death world that made us harder and meaner than we had any right to be. But that is not all we are. We are also the species that domesticated wolves to be our friends. We are the species that rescues animals from disasters. We are the species that cannot see someone in trouble without wanting to help. That is the human condition, Commander. We are dangerous because we care. Morix floated forward to where Thesa stood. What happens now, Commander Hayes? Will your people rejoin galactic civilization? That depends, Hayes said carefully. We came because you needed help. We will stay as long as that is true. But we will not conquer. We will not dominate. If the galaxy wants humanity's help, you will have it. If the galaxy wants humanity to return to isolation, we will respect that. This is your civilization. We are just the neighbors who answered when you knocked on our door. Thesa made a decision that she knew would change everything. The Valorian Republic formally requests that humanity maintain a presence in our territory, not as conquerors, but as allies, as friends. We called for help, and you answered. That means something to us. It means something to us too, Hayes replied. You will have our protection, Commander. All of you. The Kryn swarm and anyone else who thinks peaceful species make easy prey are about to learn a hard lesson. There are Deathworlders in this galaxy now, and we do not abandon our friends. The communication ended. Thesa looked at Morix, and the elder pulsed with light that spoke of understanding and acceptance. The galaxy has changed today, he said simply. Humanity has returned, and nothing will be the same. No, Thesa agreed, watching the 3 human ships take up defensive positions around her station, scarred and damaged, but still radiating that aura of absolute confidence. Nothing will be the same. But perhaps that is not a bad thing. Perhaps the galaxy needed Deathworlders to remind us that peace must sometimes be defended with strength. Outside the station, the human ships patrolled like ancient guardians, and for the first time in months, Thesa felt safe. The monsters had come to the galaxy, and humanity had answered with monsters of their own. But these were monsters who protected the innocent, who stood between the weak and the predators, who remembered what it meant to be prey and refused to let others suffer that fate. The Deathworlders had brought judgment, and the galaxy would never forget. Asterisk, asterisk.